For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
Hello everybody out there. This is the tittle of the day for December 15th, 2014. And today it is over basically Lucifer, Satan, being the watcher before the fall of the dinosaurs, reptilian, I guess, creatures or animals or beasts, if you will. And some of this I got from Gary Sturman, because he has a teaching where he talks about the fifth watcher, and he has a little writing about it, and I read some of that, and then of course I put my own studying into it, and got a little bit deeper with it, and I think it's pretty cool because it makes a lot of sense to me. And okay, because we know that like Michael, the archangel Michael, is like the guardian over Israel. Right, yeah. And Gabriel is like the watcher or the archangel over all the angels, okay? So he is the watcher over the angels, and Michael is the watcher over the Israel, the Hebrew people, right? So he was talking about how each of the cherub were watchers over each different animal, and each different kind of sets of animals and stuff, and we're going to look at that. So first, so we're thinking of it like that, and let's get started first with Ezekiel 10:13 through 23, which says this.
As for the wheels, it was cried unto them in my hearing, O wheel!
And that's interesting, okay, because I in my research of this, where it says O wheel, it's interpreted whirling wheel, right? Whirling wheel, but also it is interpreted from the Hebrew Galgal, which is chariot. Okay, so it's kind of crazy. It's like chariot of the gods, that kind of thing. I don't I don't know how to explain it. Like we'll see here that there are beside the chariot or the wheel, but yet there's spirits in there. Okay, so let's go on and on.
And every one had 4 faces. The first face was the face of a cherub.
Okay, so that's like Gabriel, right? He's the watcher over all the angels, the cherubs, all of that.
And the second face was the face of a man.
Okay, so you have like Michael, who is a watcher over men, and if you read like Enoch and some of the other books that aren't in the Bible, they talk about all these different angels that are over different things.
And the third, the face of a lion.
Okay, so these are the face of the watcher over the wild beast. Okay, the beasts that are not domesticated.
And the fourth, the face of an eagle.
Okay, over the flying ones, right? Over the flying creatures, birds, such things as that.
And the cherubims were lifted up. This is the living creature that I saw by the river of Kibar.
So the same one that he saw in Ezekiel 1, which we'll look at in a minute, is these same creatures.
And when the cherubims went, the wheels went by them.
See, the wheels went by them. So as the cherub are flying, the wheels, the chariots, are coming beside them, which is interesting, right? If you think about UFOs and so-called aliens and stuff.
And when the cherubims lifted up their wings to mount up from the earth, the same wheels also turned not from beside them. When they stood, these stood. And when they were lifted up, these lifted up themselves also. For the spirit of the living creature was in them.
Okay, think about that. The spirit of the living creature was in them. The spirit of the cherub were in these chariots and these wheels that whirled around. Okay, so what made me think about that is, okay, Satan copies everything, right? So what we're seeing as UFOs are a copy of these wheels, these chariots of God, okay? So Satan copies that, but he also copies it in a spiritual way, in the sense that it's physical, but it's spiritual in the sense that, okay, think about it. In Enoch, what happened to the children of the fallen angels? They the Watchers, okay, they became Nephilim giants, or Nephilim, you know, the fallen, and they died. And when they died, their spirits became demons, okay, but they're part angel, so they can't die like altogether die, because the spirit can't die. So what happens, okay, so now you got these UFOs flying around, and these demon spirits are inside of that, like just like the spirit of the living creatures was in them, these chariots. You see that? So in angels, you know, just like Lucifer and all these others, they can change their shape, they can appear to us, they can disappear to us, they can come in and out of our reality, our dimension, or however you, spiritual world, however you want to say it. So that triggered in my mind, oh, that's what the aliens are. They're demon spirits, but physically manifesting in a way inside of this chariot thing, which is what we call nowadays a UFO. Isn't that kind of cool? Okay, good one.
Then the glory of the Lord departed from off the threshold of the house, and stood over the cherubims. And the cherubims lifted up their wings, and mounted up from the earth in my sight. When they went out, the wheels also were beside them, and every one stood at the door of the east gate of the Lord's house. And the glory of the God of Israel was over them above.
Okay, so you see, the cherub, the angels, the watchers, are the same as the fallen watchers. Their spirit is in these chariots, but yet their physical bodies are outside of it. So they're separated in a way, but yet together. It's kind of crazy.
This is the living creature that I saw under the God of Israel by the river of Kibar, and I knew that they were the cherubims. Every one had 4 faces apiece, and every one 4 wings, and the likeness of the hands of a man was under their wings. And the likeness of their faces was the same faces which I saw by the river of Kibar. Their appearances and themselves, they went every one straight forward.
Okay, so isn't it interesting too, in verse 21 it says that the likeness of the hands of a man. Isn't that interesting? God, you ever see pictures of God's giant hands and things like that, the Father's hands? There's even stories of people who like have near-death experiences. They're trapped in hell. They call out to Jesus, and this giant light hand will come and take them out of hell and put them back on the earth and give them a second chance and things like that. So this is what I think it's speaking about, and in a way to where God moves these cherub and these chariots with his power, with his hands, right? His power. He moves these things spiritually, okay? Satan can't do that, so what does he do? He has technology to where it's his hand through technology trying to move the UFOs into things that we have all around. Isn't that interesting? Okay, I think it is. But anyway. Okay, so you see the cherub watchers there. There's 4 different ones here, and it's talking about the lions, wild beast, okay? Now we'll also look at Revelations 4, where it's speaking about the same living creatures or beast or cherub, and it describes them in the same way. John sees the same thing Ezekiel saw.
And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind.
And it's very interesting too to think about it. Beast, cherub, Lucifer was the anointed cherub that covereth the beast, the mark of the beast. See, it's something to do with changing your DNA or your spirit to beast, to angel, fallen angel like, okay? Just like the same way they did in Genesis 6 and in Enoch and all that. They're trying to change us somehow into fallen angel technology, or fallen angel, just them being in us somehow.
And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle.
Okay, so you see, the first beast was like the lion, okay? It was a watcher over the wild beast. The second beast like a calf, over like domestic animals like a dog or a cow, or things that we use for work and as a helpmeet, our pets or whatever. And the third beast, the face of a man, the watcher over men, and over the flying eagle, like birds and stuff, such.
And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying,
Holy, holy, holy Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come.
And when those...
Okay, so you see, they have eyes, full of eyes inside, so they can see and monitor and take care of everything, right? And they rest day and night, saying, holy, holy, holy. Okay, so it's very interesting that Ezekiel sees this, John sees this, and they all talk about the different animals and different things like that. Okay, so now let's go back to Ezekiel 1, 5 through 10, where Ezekiel describes his first scene of these creatures.
Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. And every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot. And they sparkled like the color of burnished brass.
And it's interesting that, to me, they are different parts of all of creation. So that makes more sense to why they're like that. So they're not just look like an angel man, or an angel lion, or an angel like this or that. They look different, and you know what I'm saying. So that's why they have different parts of animals and different things like that, because they're different watchers over different things.
And they had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went every one straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right side, and they 4 had the face of an ox on the left side. They 4 also had the face of an eagle. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. And they went every one straight forward. Whither the Spirit was to go, they went, and they turned not when they went.
Okay, so so you see that that's what they're described as lion, ox, eagle, and it says it in different, in just in Ezekiel and in Revelation. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, the reason that we're looking at that is because of the watchers. Okay, now Lucifer was a serpent, and of course he was a cherub, and he was a watcher, right? So, and we can see that in Genesis 1, of course, or Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Okay, so you see there, he is a serpent. Okay, and a dinosaur is a terrible lizard, terrible dragon, terrible serpent, right? That's what dinosaur means, pretty much. So you see that. Okay, so also, okay, he's a cherub. We can see that in Ezekiel 28. There's a lot of Ezekiel 28, 13 through 15, which says this.
Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God.
Okay, so there. He is in Eden as cherub, right? And he can shapeshift. Okay, like Brother Bill and when he talks about that he goes to the Cathedral of Pain, that's a moon on Saturn, and he saw Lucifer, Satan, that he was constantly transforming from a hideous, like demonic looking monster, right, was probably reptilian looking at the same time, and then changed into a beautiful man, and then changed back into it. He's constantly changing his form. It was like moving, constantly changing is the way he described it. So we know that he can change his form. He can transform himself to an angel of light. Okay.
Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that...
Okay, so there you go. He's an anointed cherub that covereth. Okay, he covereth the throne of God even.
Covering.
And what were the dinosaurs? The dinosaurs were the biggest thing that was on the earth. the terrible lizard, the terrible dragon, the terrible, dinosaur. It was bigger and could take everything else out, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex and stuff. So it's like that's what he was. He was not that God needs protection, but it was a covering cherub, right? It protected all from everything else. The one that was supposed to protect was the one who turned on God, right?
And I have set thee.
And I guess that, I'm sorry, that I keep stopping. That's why I guess it was so hard in a way to battle him as an angel, right? That's why, he only took a third of the angels with him, but they were still, he obviously thought he could win with just a third because he was so powerful, right? But, and Michael had to fight him and all that stuff.
Thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee.
Okay, so you see, he was perfect in his ways. A lot of people talk about that as like, oh, he was perfect as in like beautiful perfect, which is probably true, but perfect in what his job was, is to cover and to protect. So he was perfectly strong, right? And okay, you see that? Okay. So he was a cherub. Okay, we see that. He was a watcher. He was a serpent. Okay, like a serpent, a dragon. And then if we look in Revelations 12:9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Okay, so there you got a dragon, a lizard, a serpent, and the devil and Satan all put together, and the angels. Okay, so you see, it just makes sense that he would have had a job. His job was to protect and watch over the reptilian things that were on the earth. Okay, and we know that God describes that. Okay, God describes in the Bible the different dinosaurs, like Behemoth is a dinosaur, and Leviathan we're going to see, and we're going to see how God. Why would God describe a dinosaur, call it Leviathan, and then in other passages compare Lucifer and Satan to these dinosaurs? Okay, we're going to see that he compares them to the dinosaurs because he was the watcher over the dinosaurs, and God even compares him to those. He keeps comparing them to those. Okay, so now let's look at terrible dragon. I said that. Okay, in Lucifer, when his fall, like Gary points this out, which I think this is pretty interesting too. When Lucifer falls, something happens. Well, what happened to the dinosaurs? And he points out as it could be such a climactic, like just catastrophic thing that happened was Lucifer literally falling. And when he fell, he took out all the dinosaurs. Like that was what the meteor, or so-called, or scientists think it was a meteor. They can't even figure out what really wiped out the dinosaurs. Was Lucifer literally falling to the earth, destroying it, and destroying part of it and all that other stuff, and it took the dinosaurs out. Because of his rebellion, physical animals on the earth paid a consequence to it too. What he was watching over was literally destroyed, and then only what was left was like him in a way. And that's why even we know that God cursed the snake also, the serpent also, to where it crawls on its belly now. So you see, it was once the greatest of all the animals, of all the creatures on earth, the dinosaur, the terrible lizard, but now they're all on their belly and they're like smaller, right? They're almost the least of the animals because people despise them, or are scared of alligators and scared of snakes and scared of all that kind of stuff. You see that? So they've all been made less of animals than everything else. Okay, that was because of Lucifer's fall. Now, we can see that Genesis 3, 14 through 15. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle. Okay, now the serpent is the least of all the animals. And above every beast of the field, upon thy belly thou shalt go, and the dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Speaking of Jesus, but it also says to put enmity between thee and the woman. Well, people are scared of snakes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, they literally have a built-in fear of it. And people who don't have a built-in fear of snakes, you need to watch that, because, you know, those people, yeah, kind of weird. But anyway, so you see that, okay, that that's what he was the watcher over, was the reptilians. Okay. Now, also, this takes this passage into awesome, I mean, I just think this is cool now when I read this, Luke 10:18, because they talk about how the 70 come back, and they talk about how they have dominion over, like 2:19, verse 17, and the 70 return again with joy, saying, Lord, even the devils, demons, are subject to us through your name. And God says you will, Jesus says you will tread on serpents and scorpions. Okay? But listen to what Jesus says. And he said to them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. And behold, I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall be by any means hurt you. Okay, so he's saying that he saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. So I believe and know that that's what he's talking about. He's saying, man, I saw this. Like, you think that this is good, that this is happening, but I saw this happen, and it took everything out because of him. And that's why you have the power to tread on these, because they're not as powerful as they used to be. Okay, and then in verse 20 says, not without standing in this rejoice not that the spirits are subjects to you. Okay, like we saw in Ezekiel, the spirits and the wheel and all that kind of stuff aren't subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. Okay, see that? I think that's awesome. So that takes that passage, puts us in a whole new perspective, right, of what Jesus is speaking about here, of them, the dinosaurs and all that being taken out. Okay, so you see that. Okay, so now let's look at how God compares in the Old Testament Satan, Lucifer, the devil, to dinosaurs. Okay, first let's look at Job 41, where God is speaking about the dinosaurs to Job.
Job chapter 41. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever?
Okay, so think about this. This is talking about a dinosaur. It says even in my Bible, sea creature, dinosaur, Leviathan. Okay, so think about what he's saying right here. Will he make a covenant with you? Will he speak sweet words to you? Like, so think of it also as Satan. So he's saying, will Satan do these things for you? Can you hook his nose? Who can fight? He's saying, who can fight? Who can catch Leviathan? Who can fight? Who can defeat Satan? Only Jesus can. Only God can, the Father, right?
Wilt thou play with him as with a bird? Or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants?
It reminds me of, like, you can't handle what Satan kind of has for you in this world, because he's going to try to corrupt you and devour you as the best he can. So God's saying here, who can fight against him but me, right?
Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine.
Okay, the whole heaven. Third heaven, the second heaven, the earth heaven, and whatever else is out there, it's all under God the Father, right? And he says, he's going to repay him, right? It says in verse 11, and the whole heavens is his, even though that, you know, what we think of outer space and all that stuff, you know, Satan trying to use it to deceive us and all that, but God is saying all the heavens are mine and I'm in control of all of them.
I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together that they cannot be sundered. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning.
Okay, so you see how, like, Ezekiel 28 is kind of describing Lucifer as a spiritual being, a cherub in heaven. This is almost like talking about the dinosaur and describing Lucifer as a reptilian being in the physical form of what he is now in his hideous form. You see that? It's very interesting.
Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out.
See, that shows it's a dragon too, right? Because fire-breathing dragon.
Out of his nostrils.
And God describes him as all these. God describes Lucifer, Satan, as a Leviathan, as a dragon, as a serpent, all these things in one. And you think about all the cultures that have dragons in them and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Well, everything that's so-called mythology is based in some form of reality, okay? It's just been twisted through time, except for what the Bible describes.
Goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves, they cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid.
So you see, like, his heart is as firm as a stone, okay? Like Pharaoh, God hardened Pharaoh's heart, okay? Our heart is supposed to be soft, right? So you see, it's crazy as a comparison.
By reason of breakings they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold, the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreadeth sharp-pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride.
Okay, that right there at the end, he beholds high things. What does I say about him in Isaiah? He wishes to be above high things and all that stuff. He is the king over all the children of pride. Why did he fall? Because of pride, because of rebellion. So you see, this is just like Ezekiel 28 is describing the spiritual. This is describing Leviathan, the actual dinosaur, but also the Lucifer and Satan on the earth. And that's why we need Jesus to battle something like this, because like it says in Ezekiel 28, he was perfect in all his ways. Okay, he's perfectly powerful and strong, and that's why we need Jesus to fight against him and you know, till he's utterly destroyed. Because he's not utterly destroyed. People will say that Satan is defeated. Sin and death is defeated, so that Satan can't use that so much against us. But Satan himself is not completely defeated until Jesus comes back. I mean, Revelation tells us that he's not done until Jesus completely defeats him. Okay, we can't completely defeat him because we need Jesus to do that. All right, so you see that. That's a comparison. That's a comparison, but it's also talking about the dinosaur. Okay, now let's look at Isaiah 27, 1 through 5. Which some of you may have heard of the Reb and Planet X and Nearbu, how do you say that? And those type of things, Wormwood, people all lump these all together, okay? And Rahab supposedly was another planet, And people believe that maybe that's where Lucifer fell too, and that him and his angels lived there, and then there's something happened and Earth and Reb collided, and then that's why the Earth was formless and void. It was without form because they collided, and that's where the asteroid belt came from and things like that. And then God formed it back. That's why it says it was formless and void, but God didn't make it. In Jeremiah, I believe it says that he didn't make the earth to be formless and void, but to have life on it. So he formed it back, and then that's when he put man on it and stuff. Okay. So that's the story. Now, I don't necessarily know which is completely true, okay, but I do see that with Lucifer falling, and that could also have made the earth like formless and void. And but the Bible speaks about that. Either way you look at it, about Rhea being destroyed, it being like formless and void, and okay. So that's going to be in this also. That's why I mentioned it now. So let's look at Isaiah 27, 1 through 5.
Isaiah chapter 27.
Oh, 27, sorry.
In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan the piercing serpent.
Okay, so he punishes Leviathan with his great sword. All right, so it's interesting now. It's a dinosaur. Think of the dinosaur and Lucifer and it all being taken out at the same time at the fall.
Even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea.
So see, God himself is calling Leviathan a dinosaur. And even in my translation here, it says sea monster dinosaur, dragon dinosaur. Okay, so he is taking the dinosaur Leviathan, comparing it to the serpent, taking Leviathan, comparing it to a crooked serpent, and the dragon all at the same time. Okay.
In that day sing ye unto her a vineyard of red wine.
Because it was for Israel. He's taking Earth out, and he's taking the dinosaurs. He's taking Lucifer out, and then it's destroyed. The Earth, Reb, however you want to look at it, it's destroyed. But he's saying here, in that day, sing to her a vineyard of red wine. What's a vineyard? Israel. So the earth is made for Israel, God's people. Okay, whether the ancient Israel or Israel of today. Okay, that's what the earth is for, was for his people, for his children, you see.
I, the Lord, do keep it. I will water it every moment. Lest any hurt it, I will keep it night and day. Fury is not in me. Who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? I would go through them. I would burn them together.
Okay, so think about that. The Lord keeps it. He watches over it. Earth, his people, Israel, us. I will water it. Jesus is the living water. Least any hurt it. Okay, he says, don't touch my anointed, do my prophet no harm, right? I would go through them. At night and day he watches it. Fury is not in me. Israel's enemies would set the briars of thorns against me in battle. I would go through them. I would burn them together. Okay, the unbelieving and fallen angel, he's going to burn them together in the end. You see that? Okay.
Or let him take hold of my strength, that he may make peace with me, and he shall make peace with me.
Okay, the unbelieving making peace with him to be the believing. Okay, you see that? That's pretty awesome, I think. So that's a comparison between dinosaur and Lucifer, Satan. Okay, also Psalms 74:14 says, thou breakest the head of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Okay, so you could take that and you could also compare it with Ezekiel 28 before, and Isaiah 14 when he's describing Lucifer. He says that the kings of the earth, and they'll be less than men, and they'll be attacked and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so you see that's Leviathan there. Psalms 89 6-11 says this.
For who in the heaven can be compared unto the Lord?
Who in the heaven can be compared to the Lord? Who in the second heaven, right? Like could be compared to Jesus, God.
Who among the sons of the mighty can be likened unto the Lord?
Okay, who among the sons of the mighty, who among the sons of God, the fallen, the angels, can be compared with him? None. Okay.
God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be had in reverence of all them that are about him. O Lord, God of hosts, who is a strong Lord like unto thee, or to thy faithfulness round about thee? Thou rulest the raging of the sea. When the waves thereof arise, thou stillest them.
And it's very interesting that he keeps talking about the ocean in this sense. Like, did Lucifer fall into the ocean? And that's what, like, happened? Because, you know, like, Rob Skiba talks about how when the fallen from Enoch fell, that they fell, like, in a mountain over there in the Middle East, okay? But it's strange that he keeps talking about the sea and stuff like that when talking about Leviathan and Lucifer and the dragon and stuff, okay, in the ocean. And a lot of people see like Atlantis or like you know, so-called UFOs, but underwater UFOs and things like that. Bermuda Triangle, okay, the triangle, I mean, we know that. So could that be where like he fell, and then that's why that's an evil place, the Devil's Triangle, if you will. I mean, all these things, you know, when I started studying this, I was like, man, all these things kind of make sense, but it's still, you know, an enigma that you're trying to figure out. Okay.
Thou hast broken Rahab in pieces as one that is slain. Thou hast scattered thine enemies with thy strong arm.
Okay, so it's interesting, Rahab in pieces as one that is slain, okay? So this is a planet that people are speaking about and things, but it's also like Lucifer. You see that as one that is slain. So he destroyed the planet, took the dinosaurs out, and whether it hit the earth or it was literally the earth itself, like that's what it's saying. It was broken. You have broken it.
The heavens are thine, the earth also is thine. As for the world and the fullness thereof, thou hast founded them.
Okay, so you see, he put it all back together. It always belonged to him. And it's interesting that, like I've talked about before, the world being the cube and stuff like that, and all of that under Saturn and all that. But it's interesting, the heavens are yours. So whatever we think is Saturn and all that outer space, it's his. The second heaven, the earth is yours. Okay, so he made it for us, for Israel, for his people to be on. As for the world and its fullness, so as for the cube and the fullness thereof, you have founded them. So all of it's under God. God is in control of all of it. Even though we're in a cage, he wishes to set us free from this prison that's our body even, and that's this cube that we're in. And, you know, he wants us all in heaven to be completely free from all of these prisons that inside of a prison. Okay. So you see that's Rahab. That's the planet there that I was speaking about and all that stuff. And it's the sea, and it all kind of ties in together very well. I mean, at least for me it does. Okay. So now let's look at Isaiah 51, 9 through 11.
Awake! Awake! Put on strength, O arm of the Lord! Awake, as in the ancient days, in the generations of old. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon?
Okay. See, he destroyed Rahab and he wounded, he destroyed the planet and took the dinosaurs out and wounded the dragon. Okay, the dinosaurs, the dragon, Lucifer.
Art thou not...
Even this translation of the Bible says, which is King James, but it's, you know, the easy reader. But it says, when talking about dragon, it has underlined monster or dinosaur.
Not it which hath dried the sea, the waters of the great deep, that hath made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over?
See that? Like, it's talking about the ocean again, and the ransom passing over it. And that just makes me think about Jesus, you know, and the Spirit of God was on the depths of the sea, and the darkness, in Genesis 1, the darkness was on the earth, right? And the Spirit of God was going over the waters. Okay, maybe this is Lucifer hit it, took it out, took the dinosaurs out, and then now the Spirit of God is watching over it, making sure he didn't come out of it. The ransom, Jesus, the Holy Ghost, to pass over. You know, Passover. You know, okay, see how it all kind of ties together.
Therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return.
So he'll put people on there. Okay, Jesus will be on there because before the foundations of the earth, the saints were slain. Before the foundations of the earth, Jesus was crucified. Okay, we know that from Scripture.
And come with singing unto Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their head. They shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away.
Aye, even...
Okay, so you see, he destroyed something, but then he made it life again for all of us. That's awesome, right? I just think that's glorious. That's just awesome. Okay, so you see that. I believe that. I believe that Lucifer had a job. He covered, he protected, and he watched over the dinosaurs and reptilian life forms that were on the earth. Okay, now what also takes into consideration this, because well, let me see if I want to read any of what he wrote. Well, this is what Gary Stearman wrote, so I'm going to read part of it. Some of it's what I talked about, but he wrote, "These beasts or living creatures are cherubims, 4 in number, of which it seems Lucifer must have once been numbered. Both here in Ezekiel, the number 4, it talks about the number 4, 4 of them surround God's throne, full of eyes. They are also called watchers and holy ones. See Daniel 4:13 and Daniel 4:23. There is the highest calling of surrounding God's throne and doing His special bidding. Okay. Once there were 5 of them, the 5th called the anointed cherub that covereth. Okay, so you see there, and then he speaks about some of the stuff that I was talking about. And he talks about the dinosaurs. He talks about how they were the dinosaurs, like their watcher. They were reptilian. They were the thunder dragon. Okay, you heard that before. They thundered the earth. Once he and his kingdom were exalted as the highest of all creation, speaking of Lucifer and the dinosaurs, now they have sunk to utter ruin. Okay. After the serpent in the garden, they're lowly now. They're dust eaters, crawlers, whose very appearance has some produced loathing in humans who encounter them. Thus, long ago, with himself, he brought an entire class of creatures. So Lucifer, doing what he did, rebellion, he brought an entire class of created beings to shame. Okay. In Oriental cultures, the mythology of the dragon is also comparative by the great Laminin, that he lost his power. Okay. In the ancient rituals of their religion, there are the stories of how he seeks to rebuild it. Okay, we will rebuild. What did Nimrod say? What did Obama say? Okay. One day, says his followers, he will rise again. Speaking of the dragon in their culture. So you see that? Now, I also want to look at this to where it makes sense that some of these fallen angels would have been, that fell with Enoch. In the book of Enoch, some watchers change into cattle and have sex with cattle. Some of them come down and they have sex with women, right? Okay. So it's crazy that why would some of them transform and turn into cattle? Okay, and we can see that in Enoch 86, 1-5. And again, I saw a vision with mine eyes as I was sleeping, and saw the lofty heaven, and I looked up. A star fell down from heaven, but managed to rise and eat, to be pastured among these cows. Then I saw these big and dark cows, and behold, they all changed their cattle sheds, their calves, and they began to laminate with each other. Once again I saw a vision, and I observed the sky, and behold, I saw many stars descending and casting themselves down from the sky unto the first star. Okay, and stars are always comparison to angels, and here it's compared to fallen angels. Okay, which is crazy because we call all the media types stars and superstars and rock stars. Okay, it's because they're trying to be like angels, I guess, fallen angels, and they became cattle upon these calves, and they began to sleep together with them in their midst. I kept observing, and behold, I saw all of them extending their sexual organs like horses to mount upon the heifers and the bovines. So they're trying to have sex with the male and the females, okay? Bisexualness that we see all in society today, it's all a corruption from Satan and the fallen angels, okay? To do things differently than the way God intended. And they all became pregnant and bore elephants, camels, donkeys. So the cattle became fearful and frightened of them. So even the cattle were frightened of them and didn't want to have sex with them, try to get away with them. But stupid humans were trying to have sex with these fallen angels. Okay, because I believe also that when they came down, they probably portrayed themselves as gods and as God, right? So as they have always done, as Lucifer has always done. So that's probably why they gave themselves over to him. But the animals were smart enough to try to get away from them, okay, if they were fearful of them. Same way with the pigs. When Jesus casts out the legion into the pigs, first thing the pigs do is go jump and kill themselves in the water, because they are smart to know, I don't want these demonic things in me. You see? Okay, so this is very interesting that it's almost like sexual perversion from these fallen angels. That's where sexual perversion came from. God says it's an abomination, it's detestable to him to do these certain sexual acts. The fallen angels just want to live out their lust, either through their different forms or through a human form, right? Like I talked about before, Steve Quayle said that God told him that lust was demonic desires being fulfilled through human bodies, okay? So these were the first sexual perverts, okay, on the earth, was here in Enoch here with the fallen angels. They were trying to corrupt man and beast, okay? And it makes sense because some of them were the watchers over the cattle or over all the line and all these other different things. So they probably, fallen that were watchers, probably were having sex with them, because all flesh was corrupted, right? It says that all flesh was corrupted. Not just humans, but all flesh. That's why God got so upset. And these different watchers were supposed to be watching and taking care, but instead now they're sexually abusing and taking, forcing themselves and taking, they gave themselves, but some of them they took, okay? So you see that? All right. Now that makes Jude 6 or Jude 6 through 15 make a whole lot more sense to me, okay? And we know that in, speaking of the corruption, Genesis 6:12 says, "And God looked upon the earth and beheld it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his ways upon the earth." Okay. So now let's look at Jude. And this makes a lot more sense now with the sexual perversion and what the angels did and how they left their first estate.
And the angels, which kept not their first estate. But
so whether you believe that they left their angelic body and came into different bodies, or I think they're shapeshifters, so they could shapeshift their bodies from looking like a cherub, looking like a man, or looking like an animal. And the ones that were watchers over the different animals chose to take the form of those animals.
But left their own habitation. He hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day.
Okay.
Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example.
Okay, so you see, Sodom and Gomorrah were doing the same thing that these fallen angels were doing. So that shows that the corruption, the sexual perversion, the sinfulness was going ahead and passed down. And Sodom and Gomorrah was being like these fallen angels, was probably corrupted again by these fallen angels and demonic activity. And that's why God had to destroy it, because there was none that could be saved in it except for Lot and his family.
Suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Likewise also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities.
Okay, so they filthy dreamers in their minds start thinking of these vain imaginations, lustful thoughts to any flesh, any man, woman, animal they were thinking. And that's what a lot of humans are now too on the earth, okay? As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. As it was defiled back then, so is most human beings are defiled sexually now, to where it's getting to the point to where anything is going to be legal sexually that they can do. It's my freedom of choice to do this. Despise dominion. Okay, they despise like the teachings of God and speak evil of dignitaries. They speak evil of everything, celestial beings, terrestrial beings. Okay, you see that?
Yet Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, "The Lord rebuke thee."
Okay, so he's saying that he is, Michael was being a good holy angel standing up to Satan, and he didn't like talk down to him. He just says the Lord rebukes you about Moses. Now what was he trying to do with the body of Moses? I believe he was probably trying to possess the body of Moses some way, make it like an antichrist figure, to where he was trying to possess the body of Moses, or he was trying to get the body of Moses, set it up as an idol so that people would worship it like they did the golden calf and things like that.
But these speak evil of those things which they know not, but what they know naturally, as brute beasts.
Brute beasts, okay? Think about that.
In those things they corrupt themselves.
And with those things they corrupt themselves. Sexually corrupt, okay?
Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, and ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward, and perished in the gainsaying of Corey.
Okay, the gainsaying, the rebellion of Corn. They are gone the way of Cain. What happened when Genesis 6 and in Enoch, when they came, just everything's, the giants, Nephilim, Nephal, they started devouring everything. They started devouring everything, and you know, I mean, so they were gone the way of Cain. They were murdering and killing. They're the era of Balaam for reward. You know, they wanted like gain worldly things and stuff like that, money and power and pyramids and all this other stuff. Okay, all right, let's go on.
These are spots in your feasts of charity, when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are without water, carried about of winds. Trees whose fruit withereth, without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots.
Twice dead. You will know them by their fruit. Twice dead, right? Okay, they will taste the second death. They're spots in your feast of charity, of love. They're not here for love, they're here for lust.
Raging waves of the
sea. Remember what I talked about, the comparison with the ocean and Leviathan?
sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, to
wandering angels, fallen angels,
whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
Okay.
And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him.
Okay, atheists spoken against, Lucifer speaking against God. They are, and isn't it interesting that he takes Enoch and puts it in here, and what happened in the days of Enoch with the fallen angels and stuff, you see? So it's all put together there with their sexual perversion, with their rebellion against God, their wandering stars, and their judgment has already been set up. And we, like Paul says in Corinthians, do you not know that you will judge angels? Okay, fallen angels most likely. And here it says, behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his saints, okay, believers. See that? Okay, I hope that all pulls kind of get together and y'all can see that like I could see that, because I thought it was very interesting. You know, let me know what you think. Leave me some comments. I think it's very interesting teaching, and it kind of pulls a lot of things that I didn't understand completely, but now I know it. Okay, all right, well, thank you guys for watching. Wake and watch for Yeshua. God is love, and I love God. Amen.
Eat my lambs. He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things, thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus saith unto him, Feed my sheep.